What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Illinois Man 601 YouTube channel. I am very sorry this video has took so long to come out. Unfortunately, it was going to be uploaded yesterday, which would have been the 29th, but uploading the daily Real Fang and LaSalle video, my phone informed me that I was out of storage. And so, even though I thought that I carefully went through all the video files, unfortunately, I somehow deleted the same exact video that I recorded about a week ago. So now it is the 30th of April, and I'm going to be recording this for the second time. So with all that being said, let's get right into this video that you guys have been anticipating. Alright, now that I have you guys reeled in like a fish, first, since this has been a few days, I do want to show you guys my new mug. This is a mug I picked up at my local Goodwill for about $3. As you can see, we have Amtrak, the Milwaukee Road, the Baltimore and Ohio, New York Central, Union Pacific, the Rock Island, Gulf Mobile in Ohio, Santa Fe, the Chessie System, Pennsylvania, Rio Grande, Southern Pacific, Missouri Pacific, or the Mopac, Wabash, and the Louisville and Nashville, which later merged with the Seaboard Coastline and became the SCLNN, Family Line System. Another quick note is I did finally get my own pickup truck. I present to you what is this again? This is a 2023 Chevy Silverado 3500. Very beautiful. I picked this up from my local Rural King. I'm unfamiliar if it is to scale in 187. It didn't say, but it's very beautiful, so I decided to take it. Because, you know, that's just how I am. As you guys might know, as you guys might be able to see, the yard is very, very full today. I decided to take it upon myself and do a lot of decorating because I have so much time on my hands you would not believe me, even if I told you. Obviously, from the previous video, we have Amtrak 510. I forgot, it's been a while, I'm sorry. We have Amtrak 510, a B32 8W, part of the Dash 8 family. Over here we have BNSF 517, a B40 8W, two completely different engines, which explains why in the video I posted regarding Amtrak 510, I couldn't figure out why they look so similar yet so different. That's because they're two entirely different locomotives that belong to the Dash 8 family. Of course, you can't see it right now, trust me, I know. We have CSX, no idea, the number's not there, I forget what it is. Underneath here we have a semi-truck with the Chicago Northwestern trailer because, you know, I had to. I got that from the very, very beautiful Chillicothe Railway Museum in Chillicothe, Illinois, not Iowa. And then I have one of our classic trucks that no one has seen for months. I picked up a bunch of these at my local Menards because that's where I work, obviously. And we have a bunch of these that came out around Christmas time, and they all had full metal die casts made by Caterpillar themselves. Vehicles, we had a bunch of different semi-trucks with a bunch of low boys just like that. We had front loaders and excavators and stuff like that. We even have a grader too. I picked up the majority of them and tried to have a different semi-truck each time. Turns out that was a lot more difficult than I thought. Honoring Durley, we have the PPG custom made. I don't even know what you would call this, but I got that for him a very long time ago. It has an LED light up here. Behind the Gulf, that's the first thing I saw was the GMO. Behind the mug, I have the 187. I don't know what you would really call that machine. It's the vehicle you take out to place in new utility poles. I got that from Walt's Hobby Store a while back. And of course, we have the brand new Chicago Northwestern 8651, a Dash 9 locomotive. And, why is there two? Wait a minute. Give me 1 second. I gotta figure out why there's two of these. There shouldn't be two. Right! Duh. I'm just messing with you guys. Today we are revealing the brand new Chicago Northwestern number 8646, another Dash 9 locomotive. This one is custom made with all the grav irons, custom front and rear headlights, and it even has its antennas on the roof. Not to be confused with AC units, because we all know the Chicago Northwestern did not put those in their Dash 9s, which if anything means this one's more accurate because it's smooth. So with all that being said, we're going to take a closer look at number 8646. As you can see, this is more of a detailed version, as I said before. This one is made by Athearn. Both of these locomotives are, like I said before, they're both Dash 9 locomotives. The only difference is this one is custom made. I don't exactly know all the different changes, but I do know the box isn't even labeled as the Chicago Northwestern 8646. So I don't know if the seller redid this whole thing, because that is what it usually looks like, the Athearn locomotives. And as you can see, there's one hell of a difference. So who knows? I mean, the guy could have just completely redone the whole thing. I mean, to be fair, if I got a locomotive that looked like that and it was supposed to look like this, yeah, I would make it look like this. Anyway, so obviously there's not too much to talk about the Chicago Northwestern Dash 9s other than what I did mention before. Unfortunately, the Chicago Northwestern employees and the Union Pacific employees, when they got a hold of these, they did not like these Dash 9 locomotives. And for the longest time, I was trying to figure out why. Why did they hate these things so much? I would be so happy if I was being able to operate or be the conductor of this locomotive, because, I mean, come on now. Turns out there's no ACs for these locomotives. There never was any AC units on any of the Dash 9s. Now, why did the CNW do that? I have no idea. But that made it as a reputation where no one liked these things, other than the people recording them, obviously. So, one thing I do want to make a note about is when it comes to the Chicago Northwestern, when they got these newer locomotives, they decided that they're going to make a whole new paint scheme compared to what they originally had for their older diesels and their E&F units. I think they had E and F units. I know they had one, but I don't know if it was E's or F's. But I do know they had to change their paint scheme when they had these new engines, because obviously with the Dash 9 being one of the, at the time, would have been one of the engines that came factory with the comfort cab. Well, it didn't come factory, but it was an option. The comfort cab was finally made, and the Dash 9 said, well, the Chicago Northwestern ordered a lot more, and they said, comfort cab, please. And so the CNW had to make a new paint scheme, which is exactly what they did. And I do want to make a quick note. The Chicago Northwestern, like many railroads back in the day, were partnering with the Operation Lifesaver. For those who do not know, Operation Lifesaver is a nonprofit organization that helps spread awareness regarding track and railroad safety. Me personally, when I retire from the railroad, I do want to go and volunteer for them. I do know a guy that used to work for Iowa Interstate. He's a volunteer for Operation Lifesaver, and he does anything on Iowa Interstate's part. He's kind of a representative for the Iowa Interstate. Any event that Operation Lifesaver does with Iowa Interstate or vice versa, he's kind of the main guy. Very cool. But when they were making this new paint scheme and they were finally, really partnering with Operation Lifesaver, they decided that since Operation Lifesaver literally stands for trackside awareness, they decided their new paint scheme is going to have a lot of reflective taping on it. Back in the old days, obviously, there was a bunch of random stuff down here, but the Chicago Northwestern decided to do things a little bit differently than anyone else ever did regarding railroad paint schemes. They decided to make reflective taping everywhere. Their Chicago Northwestern logo outlined with reflective tape. This yellow line, reflective tape. If you look really close, you can kind of see it. There's a very thin orange line on the green. That's reflective taping. I'll pull up an image here on screen, but all of that green was outlined with reflective taping because the Chicago Northwestern really wanted to make sure that people could see their trains.
even their rolling stock actually has reflective taping on the logo. I would know because a bunch of the Iowa Interstate CBBIs I've caught, the one way that I can know if it's a Chicago Northwestern before it gets to me is if I see a glowing logo that is a circle. That's a pretty dead giveaway. It's the Chicago Northwestern. Um, I will admit it has been quite a while since a CNW boxcar, not boxcar, a CNW rolling stock has rolled through on the old Iowa, but it happens every now and then. So, of course, like I mentioned before regarding Operation Lifesaver, they also came out with their custom paint scheme that they put on their 8700 series locomotives. Should be an image on screen right now. One of their locomotives, I don't know, I can't remember the exact number of it, but a bunch of the locomotives had the big Operation Lifesaver logo. They had the Look, Listen, and Live, and they even had it on their older engines, but they were mainly seen on their new modern diesel AC 4400s and the Dash 9 locomotives. Speaking of, when the Chicago Northwestern came through and General Electric was putting out their demonstrator unit for all the railroad companies to see, which for those who do not know, when a new company comes out with a new model of a locomotive, they get what's called a demo unit, which is called the demonstrator unit. And if any railroad company is interested, the majority of them don't just go and buy it right away. They'd want to see what are the pros and cons and the features of the locomotive they're about to spend millions of dollars on. So they will find a place, bring out the demonstrator unit, and if they like it, they'll order a bunch of them. The Chicago Northwestern went out to look at the demonstrator unit for the Dash 9 locomotive. I cannot remember the number for the demonstrator unit, but I do know the Chicago Northwestern Railway decided we like this so much, they bought the demonstrator unit from GE and repainted it into a Chicago Northwestern. I think it's 8656. If that's it, I don't know. I know it'll be up on screen. It's been a long day, so I'm just really tired right now, so I'm not 100% sure. I do not know what happened to it. Obviously, if I had to take a random guess, it got repainted for the Union Pacific. But I do know, as far as I'm concerned, it should be somewhere out there still with Union Pacific. But that was very cool and also very, very funny for them to do that, if you ask me. I don't know if any other railroad companies ever did something like that. So there's the quick history lesson on the Chicago Northwestern Railway. And since there's not really much to look at, I mean, I love the CNW. That's why I have these two engines that cost me $100 each. Obviously, this one is my favorite because the number. Now, most people will look and be like, "Oh, it's just a normal Dash 9 locomotive." No, it is not. Excuse me. The Chicago Northwestern 8646 was a very, very special locomotive. After the Union Pacific decided to buy the Chicago Northwestern for reasons unknown, they decided somehow they were going to repaint all their locomotives or patch them over eventually, like you do after you buy and or merge with a railroad company. You got to get rid of your old assets because you are no longer that company. For this case, the Chicago Northwestern did not exist anymore. Thank you, Union Pacific. And so, of course, they did what any railroad company would do, and they slowly started repainting, they slowly started repatching, but that got really expensive. Somehow, no one even knows how, but somehow two locomotives never got patched or never got repainted into the Union Pacific paint scheme. And those two were Chicago Northwestern 8701 and the Chicago Northwestern 8646. Were the last two remaining Chicago Northwestern Dash 9 locomotives for over a decade, going all the way into the early 2000s. They were still painted in their original Chicago Northwestern paint scheme as the day they arrived for the CNW Railroad. Given they weren't as shiny, because why would UP take care of arguably a heritage unit, except for their actual heritage units? By the way, 1995. Pretty good. But, the best thing about these locomotives is they were actually, at some point given time, Union Pacific like they do, they have too many locomotives and not enough employees, like they always say. And so 8646 and 8701 were typically found their lives resting in storage. But if they were ever out on the main line, they were somehow always seen together. Nobody knows how it happened, but if one of the locomotives was on a train somewhere, somehow, they would typically both be right next to each other. And eventually, when people started noticing and realizing that, they gave the locomotives gave them a nickname called the Twins, because last remaining Dash 9s, they're literally identical, except for these two. These are not identical. But, so the Twins had a very, very interesting life, and if they were not in storage and not running out on mainline tracks, they somehow found themselves at Union, Illinois, in the Railway Museum, the exact one I went to I want to say maybe even last year with Mr. Durley. Went there with him, and we tried to look for it all over. I couldn't figure out why they weren't there or where they were hiding them. Then I go home and do some more research, and it turns out, even though a bunch of people thought that the Illinois Railway Museum, they thought that they bought those two locomotives. Turns out they did not. Union Pacific just wanted to store them there since they're I would say main line, but there's not enough action on there to be considered a main line. Their active line was literally right next to the Railway Museum, and so they put both of those engines there under the agreement that the Union, Illinois Railway Museum can use them in their diesel days or their Chicago and Northwestern days, which is Union Pacific's like, yeah, whatever, we basically do not care, which is exactly what they did. And believe it or not, Union Pacific even doubled down on their offer, and they brought out Union Pacific 1995, the Chicago and Northwestern Heritage Unit, to pull all of those both of those locomotives to the museum. And they somehow even they were so nice, they even kept 1995 there under the railways. The Union, Jesus, I'm having one of these days. They even kept it under the watchful eye of the museum. Now, thankfully, there was a bunch of people that saw this happening and heard about this happening, and so they all went there to see these three beautiful locomotives. And because there was an agreement they could use it however and whenever they want, they ended up having the best photo shoots ever. When it became nighttime on one of their either diesel days or Chicago Northwestern days, they took all of their Chicago Northwestern locomotives, including their high hood, their other diesel, and their F unit for the commuter service, plus 1995 and 8701 and 8646. I'll put that on the screen. And so many people got so many beautiful and amazing pictures. I think they even put it in front of the shed with the giant CNW logo on it as well. They really doubled down that day. And so many people didn't realize how lucky they were. They just thought that they're lucky because Union Pacific 1995 is there, which that'll only end up in a museum in probably about 100 years. Wouldn't that be ironic? A heritage unit being in a museum? I probably won't live to see that day. But most people did not realize that they were never bought those locomotives. Now, I don't know what happened if they did try and buy them and they were either too expensive, Union Pacific didn't want to, which, if you ask me, I have a very good feeling if Union wanted to buy them, Union Pacific would have said yes, because they don't use them enough. They use them so little, they literally put them there. So obviously they would have most likely said yes, but I'm pretty sure they didn't ask or something like that happened. So unfortunately, both locomotives were repainted into Union Pacific colors at one point. I can't remember the exact year. The numbers will be up on the screen here in a few seconds of the brand new number boards that they resign under. I do know for a fact 8646 and 8701 are still, even though they're under UP colors now and no longer wears their iconic CNW paint scheme, they are still in active service till this day. And unfortunately, most people will think it's just a normal Dash 9, but hopefully somebody will catch those locomotives and they'll realize what really is going on there, because you can't really, there's no way to tell it used to be a C&W engine unless you know what happened to them. So anyway, there's a brief history lesson, and now that I'm done talking, because my throat is getting dry because I'm not used to talking this much. Shocker, I know. We're going to move into the next room, and we're going to put number 8646 on the one and only layout, and we're going to see how well she runs, obviously, because this is so much later in the day. Well, not in the day. Since I recorded the original video a week ago, I can guarantee you that the engine runs, but my word isn't good enough. You guys actually have to see it. So I will say, unfortunately, I can't put these two locomotives together as much as I want to because, well, first, there's not a coupler there, and second, where there is a coupler, it's the old school one. So unfortunately, I can't put these two locomotives together, but we can still put 46 on the layout by itself and have it do a few half circles for you guys. So let's jump into the next scene.
Alright, now that we're into the next room, we are coming on to our final scene of this video. Obviously 646 fits in perfectly, even though I will admit there's a bunch of random colors on the layout now that I'm realizing it. None of these locomotives are related in any way, shape, or form. But with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and throw on the power, and we're going to see how well this runs. And last time I ran it was last week in the video, so shouldn't have a cold start. Thank God. Pretty decent sounding engine. It makes the same noise as another one of our locomotives. I can't remember the name. Oh, I can't remember which one sounds just like this, but I will say the weird thing, I'm going to have to take the shell off here when I can. I don't know if it's just the lighting or the headlights just don't work, which is weird because it looks like they should. Not 100% sure. I will say regarding lights, for some reason Atherin has a tendency of not putting in working ditch lights on the front pilot. Obviously that is 100% something you can do yourself, but it kind of does suck. You have to do some tedious work on your own. Not saying it's impossible, but did a little derail. It likes to do that. Just stand again. Here we go. But very, very good engine. I'm very happy with it. I honestly couldn't ask for more when it comes to a locomotive. And if she has to get up and go, she gets up and she goes. Don't worry, it's not the engine, it just is derailing itself. I would know it made that noise the first time I made this video. It's just because when the wheel is spinning so fast and it derails, so the front wheel on the front truck is touching the side of the rail, it makes that weird noise. Probably going to finish up this half circle, and that should be just about it. Don't really have the biggest layout for running trains on. It's not as exciting as it should be, I know. Yes, I'm noticing that giant bump. There's still a few things we gotta fix with the layout, but unfortunately that's gonna be halted for a few months. Well, I'd say that just about concludes it. Obviously, just as it should have, the locomotive ran perfectly fine. I don't know if it ran just as well as the real 8646, but we can only assume. There is one thing I just wanted to discuss really quick. Obviously, there's been a huge lack of Durley in this YouTube channel for a while. He is temporarily not in the state of Illinois. I'm not going to go into full details because it's not really my place to say anything, but I will say he's doing perfectly fine, and he's in Cincinnati, Ohio, right by CSX Queensgate Yard, evidently. And no, he's not there to see trains. Trust me, if he was, I would have been there. But he will not be coming back for, I think he said early June he should be back. We'll just call it a vacation. But don't worry, he's fine. Nothing's, it's not a family emergency. Everyone in his family's fine. He's just, he's taking a little break for right now. So I just wanted to address that. But unfortunately, because he will not be here for the next few months, layout work has once again officially halted, which is very unfortunate, but Durley has assured me when he gets back we're going to do a complete overhaul and really get a lot of work done on the layout, so I cannot wait for that. I will say the last thing that we fixed was this section of track right here, because locomotives just were not agreeing with the radius. Obviously it's still a little bumpy, but unfortunately there's going to be a huge halt on everything. I'm not going to be buying anything for the layout. Well, I guess I did say that, then I bought this engine, but I'm going to try and not buy anything for the layout because there's nothing I can really do with anything right now. If I buy something and it ends up broke, or I buy something that is broke, I can't fix it myself. I do not have the knowledge or skills or equipment for any of this. That was kind of all Durley, so unfortunately there's going to be a huge halt in some things, but I can assure you it'll all go back to normal sooner. But as soon, oh my god. See, it's just one of those days. I can assure you he will be back soon, and it'll all go back to normal sooner than you even realize. So, with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm very sorry it took so long to upload this video. And next time when I have to go delete stuff off my phone, I will literally go through everything so this doesn't happen again. But with all that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. And whichever video you guys decide to watch next, I can assure you I'll be there.